Coming up on this week's show, we review Antoine Fuqua's action-adventure Olympus Has Fallen, starring Gerrard Butler, Eckhart and Morgan Freeman. Now, Butler plays disgraced CIA agent Mike Branning. When Olympus, which is actually a code name for the White House, falls, and President Ascher, played by Echart, is captured by terrorists, Branning takes it upon himself to save the president and redeem his reputation. Okay, so how and whom has captured the White House? Well, the story goes something like this. South Korean Prime Minister arrives in the US to meet President Ascher to discuss a common rising threat, which is, guess who? Yes, North Korea. And into that plot, we throw in a rogue terrorist, a bad apple, nuclear weapons, and a bust of Abraham Lincoln, and the action begins. Now, the recent mainstream coverage of North Korea has got people discussing the timing as well as the parallels between reality and fiction. So is Olympus Has Fallen just an action movie, or is there something else to it? Let's take a look.
Everybody knows you did the right thing on that bridge. Even the president knows. You gotta learn how to get back into the real world.
Mr. President, we're ready for you.
Our guests have arrived.
I'd like to welcome you to the White House, sir. Sir, there's been an intrusion. Let's go, move.
Give me the Pentagon on the line now.
Olympus Has Fallen. Olympus Has Fallen.
Mr. Speaker, you are the acting president.
I want to speak for the Russians, the Chinese, the British, and the French.
If you attempt to retake this building, I will execute your commander-in-chief.
Oh, my God.
We have contact from inside the White House.
Identify yourself.
309er.
Jesus, Branning?
The same guy that was removed from the president's detail?
He is ex-special forces.
40 commandos breached the gate, 28 are left.
Can we trust him?
With all due respect, I'm the best hope you've got.
Abort! Abort! We're talking about the safety of the President of the United States.
We're talking about a hell of a lot more than that, sir.
Just open the gates of hell.
The United States of America doesn't negotiate with terrorists.
Who said anything about negotiating?
Joining us today to discuss Olympus Has Fallen, we have Chris Bambery, writer and activist, and Emerson, Forde, film critic for Colourful Radio. Welcome to the show, both of you. So now, I mean, we're only in April, but the US has been invaded twice by North Korea, according to Hollywood. I'm talking about Red Dawn. And obviously, an Olympus Has Fallen. So Emerson, I want to know what you thought of this film.
An interesting film. It starts really very well. It's got a nice action kind of sequence pre-title wise, and then the action before the Olympus is taken, before the White House is taken, is very well done. I mean, the C-10 airplane that you see over there firing at the White House, it's a really good action scene. The problem is, once Olympus has fallen, then our hero has to go and rescue the president and American democracy. The film kind of falls down. It becomes rather cliche-ridden, I have to say, and rather boring.
Because some people have said it's like Die Hard goes to Washington.
Oh, I would say it was very much like Die Hard goes to Washington.
A number of scenes which are very familiar.
Very familiar.
And the dialogue is quite familiar at times.
It is indeed, yeah.
Now, we had, I said, as I mentioned earlier, we had Red Dawn, which also looked at the, invasion of the US by North Korea, and in this film, and later on, we've got another film coming out called White House Down. So, is Hollywood, Chris, running out of ideas, or are they just trying to tell us something?
I think Hollywood's in a bit of a run of essentially pro-war movies at the moment, and I'd be worried. I came out of this showing of this film, listened on the radio, and John Kerry was threatening essentially military retaliation against North Korea for reopening its nuclear facilities. So it was kind of chilling to suddenly hear that and suddenly realise there are people watching this film in the United States of America when actually we could be on the verge of a war. And if they really believe that North Korea, one of the smallest countries in the world, bankrupt country, can physically take over America or could rush into the White House like it does in this film, then they're going to believe that these bunch of crazies, which is how they're depicted in these films, are going to take over, do all these things, then it's a justification for the military action which has been talked about. So I think it's kind of chilling.
Yeah, because you've got, I guess, the classic ingredients, you know, in patriotic films, because you've got the CIA agent who can go at it alone, kind of justifies why you need to have US military in certain places. And I guess in this case, the 7th Fleet.
Oh, yes.
I think that's correct.
Yeah.
and then you've got, you know, the bad apple, which was played by Dylan McDermott, who eventually
sees the light.
Sees the light at the end of the barrel of a gun. Yeah. So
he did, and he said, you know, and he was corrected by the system.
Yeah.
Why is the US being portrayed constantly as, you know, I guess something that's under threat at the moment, a country under threat?
I think there is a sense of weakness in the United States, that it is in decline in relation to China and the rest of it. But also I think the other side to that is, of course, America is at constant war. This war of terror is a constant reality, and they have to do this. But I think it was also something else. I mean, Hollywood had to kind of reconfigure it. At the end of the Cold War, up until then, there was an obvious enemy, which is the evil Russians. Then, since then, they've had to find a number of evil empires to fight against the war. And at the moment, it's North Korea's turn. But I mean, we've been through it. I mean, the obvious before that has been a churn of films, Argo, Zero Dark 30, which has been essentially that Islam is the enemy. You know, this is just a variation on this. But they've got to justify themselves in some ways. I think the real problem with this film is I found myself sort of a third of the way through, despite all the blood, gore, action sequences, I found myself bored. And I thought about it, and the reason I was bored was because I couldn't identify with any of the characters whatsoever.
Because I think I get what you were saying. The opening sequence was quite interesting, and it was quite exciting, you know, the action on the bridge, and then after that, it became quite similar to some of the films that we've seen. Now, in one, at the beginning, we see, I think it's the Washington Monument that kind of takes a hitting. I straight away thought of 9/11. I don't know if any of you also kind of got that, and I thought, oh, okay, my mind's going back there.
Especially the way it falls down, the way it crumbles,
the dust cloud,
the dust cloud and everything. It's very 9/11ish. I mean, I don't know. I mean, America is kind of, I think American films are kind of searching for kind of bad guys, and like you said, I mean, the war on terror seems to have been won with the death of Bin Laden, so they had to look at someone else. You could say that the people that they should be looking at are China, but that may be something that we come onto something.
But we know they need to distribute films there, so they can't do that. So let's pause there. Let's go to our next clip where we see tensions rising.
We have contact from inside the White House. Trace confirms it's the president's sat phone.
Put it through.
Mr. President,
Negative.
identify yourself.
Echelon 4.
It's one of yours?
Designator.
Oscar Zulu, 309er.
Jesus, Banning? Where are you?
In the Oval Office. There's the president in the bunker. Can we trust him?
Banning was one of our best agents.
Mr. Speaker, I just have to say, this is Mike Banning. Is this the same guy that was removed from the president's detail after the accident when we lost the first lady?
Well, what's he doing in the White House I suggest you get the
How do we know
straight.
we can trust this guy?
Banning is ex-Special Forces, Ranger Battalion. He will move mountains or die trying. I know him.
Does anyone else in this room have any intelligence coming out of the White House? And we have no choice.
Okay, so Morgan Freeman plays the acting president. How is Morgan Freeman portrayed compared to President Ascher?
Well, to me, Morgan Freeman's portrayed as someone who can't make a decision. He can't make a decision.
That's what I thought as well.
Can't make a decision. Okay, fair enough. As a speaker, I'm assuming you don't get the opportunity to do that, and you're put into this role. But I don't know. It just means here's the guy, and here's the funny thing. There's the president who's under armed kind of duress, who can make these decisions. I don't deal with terrorists is his line. I don't deal with terrorists. There's the man with the whole might of the US military establishment behind him, and he can't make a decision. He just can't make a decision. Should we go? Should we not go? Should we do this? Should we not do this? I just found it. I found it incredible, really, the way.
But they did have a strong star cast, which obviously I think will attract the audiences, because you've got Morgan Freeman, Angela Bassett, Gerrard Butler, Aaron Eckhart. So I mean,
it's a film that kind of like with the cast it's got will attract people to actually go and see it. Once they've seen it, I mean, that's where the problem begins, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, the interesting contrast is with Die Hard, because Die Hard was a fun film. It was funny.
It's funny, yeah. And this is the thing.
And there's no humour in
this film at
there
all.
is absolutely
well,
no
up until the
humour in
last one, which wasn't that funny.
Oh, right, yeah.
That's true. But there is no humour in this. And, you know, Morgan Freeman doesn't save the film, unfortunately.
Yes, he doesn't.
Alan Rickman in Die Hard is a bravo turn. I mean, it really is.
They haven't even got a good bad guy here. You just don't get to know this North Korean guy.
And there's no explanation of why North Korea might have some issue with America. Fleeting with it. It's fleetingly touched on. But there's no explanation. These are just a bunch of crazies, so we can just forget about them. They're just evil. You know?
So why, okay, Kang, who is the North Korean / South Korean,
not explained,
don't really know where he came from.
Yeah.
I think, because I heard the director say in an interview, it's not so much about a country, it's more about an individual who was trying to get revenge because I think his parents were killed by a US operation. But I don't know. I mean, I'm just not buying that.
No, I mean, there's no explanation that there is touched on. There are American troops in Korea.
Yeah.
I mean, hundreds of thousands, you know, huge numbers. There was a war in Korea. America almost had a nuclear war with China as a consequence. It was threatening. The American commander wanted to use nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
It left deep scars. Millions died in this war, and there is a real fundamental issue. The country remains divided. None of this, of course, is explained in the film. No. Now, okay, it's an action pic, so we're not expecting that. But the real prompt constant, as I say, is you don't really. There's no way you can identify it with the Koreans. They're just bad. But similarly, actually, I found the Americans were sort of cartoon cutouts. So you can't identify with them either.
Well, then there's another scene we see with the two Koreans when Gerrard Butler, he's basically managed to get into the White House. And I have a problem with this scene because we see him trying to extract information and he stabs one of them in the leg, and it's supposed to be humorous.
Yes.
Why is that funny? I mean, it almost, I guess, makes it acceptable.
Well, no, what it is kind of justifying torture. It just says to you, literally, torture does work. Because in the end, he gets the information by torturing a guy and killing another one. Sorry, I'm giving away a plot point.
Echoes of 0 Dark 30.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I did actually think of that, and I thought, oh, that's not really funny.
I mean, he even hoods them, doesn't he? He actually hoods them, and he literally stabs one guy in the leg and says, all right, okay, you're not going to give me any information. He kills one. It's like unbelievable. So, yeah.
So let's pause there. Let's go to our next clip in which we see Angela Bassett, who plays the head of the Secret Service, talking to Mike Branning, and then we hear from the director, Antoine Fuqua.
Thanks.
So, how was your 4th?
My 4th what?
4th of July. Don't be an Some people do take holidays, you know.
Yeah, I was quiet. No, you stayed in.
We?
Okay, I stayed in. She went out.
I'm shocked.
Miss Jacobs.
Good morning.
Director. All right, buddy.
Hey, Roman.
Good to see you, buddy.
How's the family?
Kids are good, thank you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
O'Neill. Hey, Banning. Looking sharp.
So we missed you for last week. Where were you?
Missed taking your money.
Yeah, I know. I've been working the late shift. Non-stop action over there at the Treasury.
Olympus Has Fallen means it's the mythical mountain of Olympus. But it also, when I heard the title, I thought Rome, a great empire. The idea of a myth, which is America, the idea of America fallen, the idea of a great monument being, collapsing. And I thought, there's something in the title that means something. There's something in that title of a great mountain that crumbles, which is, the White House, a symbol. When I first sat down with this project, and I looked at this script, I said, okay, and I met with my buddies who worked for the government. One was Secret Service, a couple other CIA and other things. And I said, could this happen? They said, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I want to do this movie as a cautionary tale. I want to do this movie to say, let's not let this happen, right? These things could happen. Yeah, it's all in fun in the movie and everything, but the truth is, this could go down. It can happen. So, I don't think there's anything in there that's not possible in the movie. There's no scene in the film, as far as the takeover, that could not happen in some way.
I just saw Chris shaking his head continuously. Okay, so Antoine Fuqua seems to think, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So I want to know from you, Chris, how likely is this to happen in real life?
I think the chances of 40 people storming and taking over the White House and then being repulsed by one man and a handgun are very slim indeed. I also think, and we've seen the sequence, the fact that any plane looking like that flying over Washington would not get within miles of. So I think it's unlikely. But I think it's interesting to think about Olympus because it's Greece actually, Antoine. It's not Rome, but it does sort of indicate what how the Americans see themselves. And it's interesting they choose it to be Rome, not Greece, because Rome was a much nastier empire, right? And they're making a comparison there with themselves. So they've got a very high opinion of their position in the world, and I'm not sure most people in the world would agree that. And I also would have to say to Antoine, I'm not sure that his descendants were necessarily part of that great civilization. There is an issue there which has not been addressed.
I just found something else that he said quite odd in another interview where he's discussing about racism in Hollywood and he doesn't seem to think it exists. And I just thought, I would love to know what Spike Lee has to say about that.
I would as well, because I mean, it's funny, he gets to make films, other African-American directors find it hard. But why? Because they want to make films about their own culture. I mean, the thing with Antoine Fuqua seems to do is he makes a lot of action films, you know, and that's all right, he wants to make those type of films. But if you want to make a film about African-American culture and it's not the kind of perceived narrative, i.e. they're not drug takers, they're not killing themselves, you can't get that made in Hollywood. You can't get to see that internationally. And for him to go and say that seems really ridiculous to me. To be absolutely fair, it's really ridiculous. Yeah.
I mean, another interesting thing he said there was that he had some of his CIA buddies involved in this, and we know, from the past that the DoD, the CIA, they are all quite actively involved. And I think one of the army advisors once had said that if they don't do as I say, I take my toys away.
Oh, right.
So films like Black Hawk Down would not be called Black Hawk Down because the army would not have given them the chocolates.
Exactly.
So now I want to know from you, what kind of involvement do you think that they've had in this? Because even if they are former CIA agents, that's still a way for the CIA to provide a service to Hollywood.
I think once you're a CIA agent, you're always a CIA agent in that sense. You're never really going to leave. And you're not going to talk. I think massively. I mean, the involvement of the American Secret Service, the American military, in a series of films, and Zero Dark Thirty as well. It's quite serious, and it was showing off American technology.
Oh, it does.
The only problem in the film was actually the Koreans generally had the American technology, but they were showing off, and they couldn't have done that without it. And there was obviously quite a lot of inside knowledge. I mean, I presume Olympus Has Fallen is was a code for when the White House falls. So as we saw it being given out in one of the sequences. So I mean, obviously quite a lot of inside knowledge here. And I think it is an interesting story, which would be worth someone doing some investigation. Just how close is that relationship between Hollywood and the Secret Service and the military?
Because if you kind of look back at the whole the Jane Fonda era, in the 70s, which she was quite active against
Vietnam.
Exactly, and they went down quite heavy on her as well. But when I heard this initially, I thought, okay, well, he's saying it's not the CIA, they're their PR department involved, it's an ex-CIA agent. But then I thought, hang on, no, don't fall for that, because as you said, once you're a CIA agent, you're always a CIA agent. Exactly. And in fact, in the 50s, I think they used to, I think with Animal Farm, they would kind of hand out money to alter scripts, but they no longer do that. So this is another way
of doing it,
I guess, to do it, which again then, how much power does the state, the establishment, have over Hollywood?
I think it's like lots of these things. It's not a formal thing, but it's at the boardroom level as well. And the connections run very deep, and it's very difficult sometimes to enshrine that. It's like the defence industry and the Pentagon. You can't really extract it because the connections are so intricate and deep. So it's not even a formal relationship. It's not as you say. It's not like they're giving them the money or they're simply telling what to do. I think the connections run so deep they can more or less rely on them playing on the game. And as you said, they need to have the Patriot missiles.
I'm going to pause you both there for a second because we want to look at, following the release of this film, now there was a fair amount of racist tweets on Twitter against the Asian community. So now we're going to go over to Mohamed Walji, who has some more on this.
Well, the Twitter fallout from the film Olympus Has Fallen has caused quite the stir. In fact, we came across a couple which were quite bad. We had one here that actually said, "My hatred for chinks, terrorists and Koreans has just escalated." We had another one that even said, "If I see an Asian tonight, I might punch them in the face after seeing that movie." So we thought we'd delve a little bit deeper, and we went on the Olympus Has Fallen website. And we found a tab which said Secret Service agents needed, and we gave that a click, and this is what we found.
The United States Secret Service is rare among law enforcement agencies in that they have only two missions:
First, to safeguard the nation's financial infrastructure, and second, to protect our nation's top leaders. They take both very seriously. Since being founded over 150 years ago, the Secret Service has established a reputation as one of the most elite law enforcement agencies in the world. They now have 150 offices around the world, and their tactics continue to evolve in response to new threats and new enemies, both foreign and domestic. But the mission remains the same. Now the Secret Service needs your help. Our enemies are getting smarter, more dangerous, more daring. So we as a nation need to become...
So, now, this is obviously publicity for the film. In no way are we implying that it's recruitment for the CIA. But when I watched this, psychologically, it had the same impact, I think, as a CIA video would have. Emerson, has Angela Bassett convinced you to sign up?
Unfortunately, Angela hasn't on this occasion. Maybe next time. But no, yeah, you're quite right. It's a borderline recruitment video at best. You know what I mean? It is a recruitment video.
But we know that, you know, a lot of, you know, these Hollywood titles, they do have a lot of publicity like this, so it's not, you know, just this film doing it, and I'm sure it is just publicity, but psychologically, Chris.
I think you have to take it into account. I think you need to do things up. Here we have Angela Bassett going on about the danger that America's in, and then you go back to those tweets, and you're getting middle America there. You know, we are threatened by these Koreans and Asians. I mean, a category which I think generally means people from the Far East in America. But I mean, even so, they can't distinguish. I mean, you know, the Korean population in America is mostly from South Korea and will be anti-communist, but I mean, okay, we're going to punch them. You know, and I think there's worse actually. I mean,
no, there are worse. Mohammed obviously didn't go into it because some of them had.
And that's why I think the film is actually quite dangerous, because at a moment when there's a very delicate international balance, we could be facing a war. I think
one of the tweets I found quite shocking was someone who, and obviously we've not given their identities, had said, "I feel like getting a gun and shooting my local Chinese grocer," and I'm thinking. Did you not hear? It's not China, it's Korea, but in a country where gun laws are so lax, you know,
it's worrying, isn't it? It's
I want to know what, you know, was Antoine Fuqua hoping for this kind of reaction? I don't know what he was hoping for.
Let's give him the benefit of the doubt, and let's just say he wanted to make a movie about the White House being taken over. But literally, if you're, like you just said, if you're a middle American, you're seeing this stuff and you don't know anything about Korea. Yeah, remember, this is, you know, it's not going to be on the local news. It's not going to be on your, it's not going to be on CNN. So this type of stuff is what's going to be in your brain. So it's going to have an then
if you're unlucky, and went to see Red Dawn, where you get invaded by Korea, went to see this with the White President and the President are taken by the Koreans, then you're being told the Koreans are a danger. You're going to be going, we've got to do something about these crazies. I mean, that's the danger in the film.
Exactly. So then, I guess that would make me think then action films potentially are a little bit more dangerous of carrying political messages than just, you know, a film maybe like The Ides of March.
Yes, because the Ides of March, the reason the Ides of March wouldn't work in that sense is if I'm a 16-year-old boy, I don't want to be watching a film about politics, high politics in America. I want to see something blowing up, someone getting stabbed or getting shot, generally speaking, if I'm a 16-year-old boy in America. So that's why that's more dangerous than the Ides of March.
An easy villain.
You're going to have to stop us there. We have run out of time. Thank you to both of you. Again, thank you to both my guests, and of course to all of you at home. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can do so by emailing us at cinepolitics@presstv.co.uk, or you can join our Facebook fan page. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.